Hello, my name is Jessie Bustamante from the Get Fully Funded team. I have about 10 years of fundraising experience. I have been an executive director myself, a vice president of development, a chief advancement officer, a major gifts officer, you name it. I've been part of leading a fundraising team as well as asking for fundraising and gifts myself.
So on our team, Jessie is the queen of relationship building and is really good at building relationships, at being strategic about it. Jessie, talk a little bit about relationship building, because I know there's a lot of people who think it feels a little manipulative and it like it's uncomfortable. We're not used to building relationships on purpose. So talk a little about that, and especially in light of what people need to be doing to build relationships for fall fundraising.
It's really important for people to remember that donors, anyone who makes a donation of any kind, is a human being, is a person who's dealing with their own challenges, their own successes, and everything else, just like you and I are. So when I think about building relationships and fundraising, what it's about is getting to know the individuals to find out what moves them, what excites them, why they gave to your mission, to ideally find out if they have the capacity to give more. Many relationships I've had have been very genuine, have been wonderful. I've made lifelong friends from donors, and it started by me just getting to know them to find out why they gave. So when we're talking about fall fundraising, a lot of people give for the holidays, right? You feel good, all the holiday music is playing, you know you're going to see your family, and you just have some incredible things happening. And that's the time when people say, I want to give back and I want to make a difference. So fall is the time to get to know your donors. Send them a card if you don't have a physical, if you don't have an email, send them a card. Try to get in touch with them. Call them if you have a number. Email them. Whatever manner you can do that. Try to reach out, tell them thank you, and find out why they gave. And build a really great relationship. So by the time Christmas, the holidays roll around, whatever it may be, you might get that gift again. It might be larger. You never know. But building relationship is key to maintaining your donor base. And so they realize you're human and you recognize that they're human too. And we're all looking for that human connection.
Absolutely. I'll tell you one of the things from my own experience as a donor, and I give to a lot of organizations, is I feel like a number in a database for every organization I give to. So if there's one that calls me or drops that card in the mail, if there's one that does a little bit of something, boy, does it stand out.
Definitely. There's one donor I worked with, I'll call him Bob to keep it confidential for now. And Bob sent in a check, and we had a home address of where he lived in a different city in a different state from our organization. I snail mailed Bob a card and I said, thank you so much for your donation. All I have is this address, but I wanted to reach out and thank you because this means so much to him. If you're interested, please give me a call. Well, 2 weeks later, lo and behold, I got a call from Bob. He was an older gentleman who's single, had no family, and was looking for a way to give back. And when he saw what we did in our mission, he knew that it resonated with him. And he was so grateful. I gave him a phone number. Bob doesn't know how to use the internet and therefore couldn't find a phone number, doesn't know how to find a website. Bob and I are still in touch with this day. It's been probably at least a few years since I first met him. And now I just call him because he's a great human. I also know that he lives alone. He's elder. And I want to make sure he knows that he's valued. He has continued to give to that organization. He has given to other organizations I have now recommended, and we have a true relationship. And I'm able to share with him the great work because, especially due to the pandemic, he's not left his home much, and I am his lifeline. And that relationship started by me snail mailing a card to a donor saying, thank you, here's my phone number. And I was able to increase those gifts and create a really wonderful relationship with him.
I love that story. I have a very similar one I can tell about a couple who was our biggest donor when I worked at the food bank. And all we had was a P.O. box. We didn't even have the physical address. And we used to laugh like, let's go stalk a post office and see if we can meet these people, because they were our biggest donor. They were dropping like a $5,000 check a couple of times a year. And that's huge for us then. And I did a very similar thing, kept sending things through the mail. That was all I could do. And ultimately they responded to something and we were able to build a relationship, and it was great. And that kind of stuff, that works great for one-on-one relationships. And I also want people to be thinking about how they can build relationships one to many, and especially during the fall. And there are a lot of things that people can do. Everything from, and we're going to be, we're talking about that here at Inspired Fundraising Retreat, everything from sending a really awesome newsletter to posting really heartwarming stories on social media, all of it counts. All of it can help build those relationships.
Absolutely. If you recently had a campaign of some sort where you were raising money for, let's say, new beds, let's say you work for an organization with children and trying to raise money for beds, for example, make sure you're showing the impact and showing the beds after you receive them. If you can call out the donors who donated, if there were 57 donors, 113, whatever it may be, really make sure that in whatever format you're using to thank your donors, that you show them the results. That builds a phenomenal relationship with a larger group when you sent out mass emails or a social media campaign or whatever it was for these specific items. Show them what you did with them, because once people know how you use their money, they're going to feel a connection, they're going to feel trust, and they're going to know they want to give to you again because they want to see what the next step will be, what the next project will be. So I think also when talking to a group about fundraising, it's the follow-up. How was the money used and how was their dollar put to use? And that's a great way to really show the impact to a larger group of individuals.
I completely agree. Again, from my own experience, and I encourage people all the time, if you're not a donor, you need to be, because you need to know what that feels like to give and then wonder what happened to my donation. And like you, I'm a big believer in follow up. And I think as a donor, if somebody comes back to me, if they circle back and say, here's what happened to your donation, boy, does that ever land in my heart. And I'm very, very open and receptive the next time they ask, because I remember how good that felt to see that thing that they did and know, oh gosh, we had a hand in that.
Yes. I think the best follow-up I've ever received was I'm very active in my alma mater and I gave towards a scholarship fund. And when I got a letter in the mail, it probably wasn't handwritten, it was typed, it didn't matter to me, but it was the scholarship recipient of where my dollars went. That to me was so powerful. I just met the young woman who I opened the doors for her to go to a university. She had never been before. She's from a migrant family. She wants to be in the medical field, and I did that for her. So that to me made me feel so good. I'm sure hundreds of other people got that same letter. And I felt so special and I felt seen. And I couldn't wait to make my next donation to find out who was the next person I was going to give to.
I love that. Where do you think most small nonprofits mess up relationship building? What are the mistakes that you see people make?
The mistakes I see small organizations make is thinking that any donation, let's say a smaller donation, is not important. So therefore not paying attention to the individual who might have given 10, 20, $50, maybe even 100, because to them it wasn't significant enough. If you have the bandwidth to send an email or make a phone call, send snail mail, whatever contact information you have, never doubt that someone's gift can't increase. Sometimes people do make small gifts, $5 or $10, to see what the response looks like. Are they going to pay attention to me? What are you going to do with this money? But a $5 donation could easily turn into 100, could turn into $1,000 with the right connection. So schedule time in your week to do follow-up, to do acknowledgments and thank yous to donors. Make them as personable as you can with the information that you have. And again, don't deny that just because someone gave a little bit of money, they're not worth your time. You never know. I have seen a lot of small gifts turn into large gifts very quickly. They're testing the waters. So definitely, as a small nonprofit, I would say build in time to say thank you. It's going to go a long way and you're going to see the gifts follow.
Completely agree. I like to tell people, until you know different, treat every donor as if they're capable of making a game-changing gift, because you don't know what somebody is capable of doing and you never know when somebody's situation is going to change. We always laugh about the donor who wins the lottery. I was involved in a nonprofit about 4 or 5 years ago that we got a $10,000 donation from someone who won a huge amount of money in a lottery. That can happen. Like, this was somebody who I don't think they had ever given before. And then here we go out of the blue as a check for 10 grand.
Absolutely.
You just don't know. You don't know what people's situation is. So, if you just think about every donor as being really deserving of your attention and your time and treating everybody like major donors, it can really change the game.
Absolutely. And with that too, just like you said, treating every donor as a major donor is keeping track of little things about them. So if you kind of see on my screen, I have my family birthdays up here. My family is my world. And every time someone remembers a detail about one of my nieces and nephews, I feel like, you remember? Oh, I'm so proud of them. That's my world. I have scratch notes upon sticky notes of notepads of notes about different people. You don't need a fancy database to keep track of little things that mean a lot to people. Did someone buy a brand new purse? When you call them next time, ask them how the purse is. Is it still wonderful? Like, you never know what excites people, but those little details are also going to go a long way. And again, you can take notes with a piece of paper. So you don't need anything fancy to keep track of little things that excite that donor that you can then relate to them next time and keep building that relationship.
Absolutely. And it can be really simple stuff. I remember some donors that I was working with one time, and me being me, I'm just curious. And I think being genuinely curious and interested in people is key to relationship building. And I remember asking them why they got involved with our organization. And, I don't even remember now what the donor shared, but I remember going, And then later I went back and entered that all into my database so that I could remember that and then angle my thank you letters in that direction, which made it more personal, which made it more relatable, which built that relationship. I was remembering them. In our day and age, I think so many of us feel like the Lone Ranger. We feel like we're out here just slugging away in life and doing our thing. And not that many people remember us outside of friends and family. So when you have a nonprofit that takes an interest in you, it really can make you feel special.
Yeah. Advice I would give to individuals too is that just think of those sales calls, those spam calls we all get a lot of right now. What really triggers you about them or makes you like just hate when they come in, right? Because you don't know this person. They're asking you for something off the bat. They're wasting your time. So think of all that and do the complete opposite. How do you make someone want to answer your phone call? How do you make someone want to answer your email? And that's going to be because they know you, they trust you, they respect you, and they enjoy talking with you. They want to get to know you just as much as you want to get to know them.
Love it. What's the one thing that you hope everybody writes down in their notes about relationship building?
If I were to ask everyone to write down one thing right now, I would say schedule time, put it on your calendar, whether it's an Outlook, through your Google Drive, whatever calendar you use, even if it's a big piece of paper on the wall. Plug in time every single week, starting now, starting this week, where you are dedicated and devoted to saying thank you and building relationships. If you have any phone numbers, you're going to call and thank your donors for giving. You're going to ask them why they chose you and tell them what their impact did. You're going to send emails, whatever it's going to be. For those of you who might be nervous, what do I say? What do I do? Well, the Get Fully Funded team is here to help you, but also feel free to script it out. Make sure you have your questions right by you so you know what you're going to ask. Maybe that email you already wrote, you're kind of copying and pasting it, but obviously changing up the name. But you can prepare yourself so that when you have this time dedicated to say thank you, you know what you're going to say, you know what your goal is, and you're going to start building great relationships well ahead of time to the holidays when people are in a very giving spirit and you definitely want your organization to be top of mind.